All right, you guys probably all got a little pop-up. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining SDA Seattle. This is our October event of the month because National has their EdConnect conference running all month, or not month, all month, 3 weeks out of the month. We opted for something a little more casual for our monthly offering. So this is a roundtable discussion. I will be moderating our topics and try to keep us on topic so that we can keep this focused, but it is meant to be interactive. So please participate, please share, ask questions. We can use the chat window, but you are also welcome to unmute yourself. Just, be aware there are right now 10 people, so we'll try not to talk over each other too much. So today we are sharing the technologies that we've been using to help keep everybody connected. I know that there's a myriad of office scenarios going on out there. We're mostly in office right now. We've been back for months and months. I know that there are other offices that are still 100% remote, and then a whole bunch that fall in the middle with a mix. Maybe you're in the office a few days, or maybe you've got some remote workers, but admin's in the office or whatever. It's all over the board right now. But we could never have done this without the technologies that allowed us to all leave our offices in March of 2020. But a lot has changed, and a lot of us had to scramble pretty quickly to get up to speed and to make this happen. And some of us have just been limping along with things we had in place before the pandemic. And then some people were already poised for this kind of work environment. So this is a great opportunity to pick each other's brain and to just maybe fine tune what we've been doing, maybe look for some new opportunities to make this work better. So the first topic I'm going to throw out there is webcams and conference room setups. So that's our first topic to talk about. Webcams and conference rooms. Those of you working in the office, I know some offices had a full AV setup in their conference rooms with cameras and speakers and all that, but a lot didn't, including my office. We didn't have a fancy setup. We jumped in with just the little clip-on webcam that sits on top of a big screen in our conference room and a tabletop speaker unit. That's still what we're using. We haven't found anything more necessary for the amount of meetings we do that way. But what about you guys? Is anybody using one of those webcam things that sits on a table that follows you? They've got those fancy ones that hone in on the speaker. Is anybody using one of those? And what kind of...
So we purchased an Owl, which is that,
Yep.
I think that camera you're thinking of. We purchased an Owl like really early last March, and that has been a good tool. I prefer it for using it as an external microphone.
Oh.
Sometimes it can do everything, which is great because it's really plug and play. You plug it in to whatever computer is running the meeting, and it finds it pretty fast. You can pause the honing feature.
Okay.
So if you're sitting, around a table and you've got people on multiple sides of the table speaking, the Owl will turn the camera onto the person speaking. And then it goes back to the other person. And it kind of learns throughout the meeting. So it's a good tool. Not everyone loves that feature. But I like that for, a team meeting. Gretchen and I have used it, for SDA things. But we have that, and then I made a kind of interview camera setup. Our teams were doing more virtual interviews. So I needed more of a professional looking setup. And so I just got, a Logitech webcam, a nice one that with a wide angle, and we had a big extra TV, which was great. So I put a big TV on a rolling cart and put a Logitech webcam on a thing. I don't have anything like it, but it's, you can clip, and then it has kind of a flexible little thing it can screw into at the top. So I've got the webcam kind of coming up in the middle of the screen. And so that became my kind of production setup.
Okay.
And then I got a couple ring lights so they could have nice lighting on them. So those were our Oops. Sorry, I muted myself.
You did, yeah.
Those are our two options we've used the most. And recently we got a really fancy conference room setup that is so fancy, I haven't tried to figure it out yet. And we've had it for about 2.5, 3 months.
Okay.
And every time we are gearing up for a meeting, I don't have time to learn a new thing, and I just have to get the meeting produced. So I guess my tidbit would be get whatever you feel comfortable with and whatever you're going to use the most. And just because it's our IT person purchased the setup instead of someone who runs meetings. So I think we may have had a little disconnect there.
Yeah.
So I guess my 2 cents would be that the person setting up the meetings should have some input into that technology, and yeah, whatever ease of use I think is number one for this kind of thing, because we know it's going to have technical difficulties and we got to figure them out.
Yeah. That owl setup, I was really interested in that, and I've almost bought that a few times. Almost so close. I've been so close.
Yeah.
Because
Even if you
I like the
yeah.
webcam on the TV because then it does show the room. And if we've got 3 people in the room, it's kind of nice to have that group setting. But if you've got one person presenting, then it kind of, you lose the focus. So I liked the owl's ability to hone in on the speaker for that.
And it has really good audio output. So like we put it in our 100-person conference room for like a large group meeting with the whole staff, and everyone can hear and not necessarily be heard. You have to be by the owl for it to pick you up. But so it's like a bigger speaker output. And I think that's one problem with some of these setups is even if the microphone on the webcam works, if you don't have a good audio output,
Yeah.
if it's coming out of a laptop, it might not be loud enough for everyone in the room. So I like it. It's expensive, but with the amount we've used it the last 2 years,
Okay.
it's been worth it.
There is yeah, Kurt put a link to the owl in the chat box. There is, if I recall, there was at least one other competitor out there when I was looking at these kinds of things, but I want to say it was like 3 times as expensive. It was like a crazy jump in price for basically the same thing. So it's not like this is the only one, but this one definitely seems to be the one that kind of fit that affordable but works well niche. Okay. I like your clever clip a mic or clip a camera on a TV too, though. I mean, that kind of, we had an interview just last week in our office, and I think there were 4 employees, and we had them scattered throughout the office in private offices with webcams and ring lights and weird risers to get their cameras up to eye level. And, it felt like such a circus, but it worked. So it's like, okay, if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. It's okay. The lights were a little late to our game, but we have a lot of windows in our office, and we really found that the backlight in the offices was really creating some deep shadows on people. So that was definitely a quick and easy thing to solve. It's just, here's a light, turn it on. Look at that. You're not in shadow all of a sudden. So that was a good one. Is anybody else using any other kind of setups for webcams that wants to share?
Not yet, no, but I just wanted to share that this is a really relevant topic because I was just directed to look into this a month ago, shared it with our IT consultant. He recommended an owl 2 weeks ago, and yeah, we're like about to buy it. So it's great to hear, Emily, that it's been a good experience for you too. Wonderful. And yeah, we share an IT consultant with another firm in town, Sarah Lippi is part of, and they said that she purchased one too recently and had a good experience.
Oh, that is good to hear. Awesome.
Mm-hmm. So another tidbit, if you, Megan, are the person that's going to be kind of queen of the owl, so it will be, your job to get it to meeting teams and that kind of thing, make sure that you are the one to register it. Because with the owl, it's pretty neat. You can download an app on your phone, and that's how you run updates and change the owl's settings. For instance, if you want a static video image, or if you want it to do the honing feature, but our IT person is the one who registered it, and so he couldn't remember the password he used. It was just a nightmare, and so I had a hard time getting the correct settings on it. So either you do it or make sure it's kind of a corporate password that a few people know, so you don't forget it. But yeah, the app is how the app is how you update it, and it will need updates, or else it'll give you a fit. So it will require.
Is that app, is it only for a smartphone, or can it be on a computer as well? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I know it's, Megan knows.
I know, because we just had a call with an OWL rep like this week earlier. They're working on a desktop version of the app. They developed the phone and tablet version first. I think it's easier for them to do, but they said the desktop version should be out at the end of this year.
Okay, there you go.
Awesome.
More reason to have a queen of the owl. All right. Anybody else on webcams or conference? I'll throw in real quick, because we're not using an owl and we are just using a regular webcam. For the speaker part, for the speaker and microphone, we've been using a Jabra speaker puck, which SDA owns one, and that's what we used for our BPEs that we were doing in person. Those are really good. We've been quite pleased with the Jabra speaker pucks. They've got a wireless and a non-wireless version. We've got one of each. So in our big conference room, we use the wireless one, so you don't have the cable. In a small conference room where it's not a big deal, we just go ahead and bought the slightly cheaper plug-in one. But they have great audio pickup, and we don't have trouble with feedback or weird static. They're really quite nice. So if you're looking for an easy speaker option, you can plug it into a laptop, because laptops have really crappy mics and speakers, or you can plug it into a desktop if that's how you're running your things. So we have found those to be really useful, easy, plug and play. It can pick up a whole room. We had it at the hotel for our monthly in-persons, and then we also use it in our conference room. We do it in our kitchen here when we do birthdays. So it's really been we're quite happy with that one. I would definitely recommend the Jabra if you just need the speaker and microphone part, if you've already got a camera scenario. So, okay.
And people were having a hard time hearing me in meetings, so I ended up getting just this little
Look at you
thing. And so it's nice. It's out of the way, but it picks up my voice really well, and I haven't had any complaints since then. But the one on my laptop just wasn't cutting it. So, and I'm $30 or something, so it's been very well worth it. Easy plug and play.
Yeah, the laptops are hit or miss. We had trouble with somebody with the buttons on somebody's sleeve when they were typing on their laptop. The buttons were scratching on the top of the laptop, and it was just creating a little sound behind their microphone, like something you wouldn't even think about. But the inboard microphones can really be not great. So that's a good one. That makes you look really like a professional, Kathy, like a podcaster. Big old microphone. All right, let's move on then to our second feeder topic here. Second one on my list was file sharing programs for remote workers, SharePoint, Teams, etc. And I left it etc. because I am not well versed in the file sharing programs. Not specifically talking about having a cloud-based file server. That's a whole different scenario. I'm kind of talking about the one-offs, the things we would maybe ordinarily email to our teams, but that starts to become a problem. Teams is really easy for those files. You just want to quickly say, hey, here's the thing, take a look. We're not yet on SharePoint, but it's in our near future. So I wanted to open up that as a discussion on how that's been working for documents that you need some collaboration on, and who wants to share what they're doing. Pros and cons. Good and bad. We want to hear. Nobody.
Okay, I'll jump in again. Guess I have lots to say today about this. So we used OneDrive, which I think is part of the Microsoft suite that our license provides. Yep. And so OneDrive was our quick fix, early on when we had project files that needed, 4 or 5 people needed access to one set of files, and we were really concerned about work being lost. OneDrive was a really good quick fix, and we have to say that we are thankful for it because it allowed us to do our jobs through COVID. It was also frustrating. If you are considering a cloud-based file server, OneDrive is not a permanent fix. You know, I think we thought it could be because it's all in the cloud, it's all in one location, and you can just create a folder for the whole office, give everyone access to it, and that can be your file server. But there are syncing issues depending on people's bandwidth at home, and those syncing issues also created some overwrites that especially the technical folks, admins is whatever, but for the technical staff, they would lose work. So that's what we used for like team file sharing.
Was
OneDrive.
You were then though maintaining a regular file server for the permanent storage, or how are you handling duplicate?
It was all in OneDrive.
All of it. Okay.
So then we moved, when we were getting off of OneDrive, to a VPN, which I won't talk about because it's complicated and not our jobs. But then we moved everything, like we had to do it all in one fell swoop so that we wouldn't have overwrites. So our IT guy sent a list out every night. These are the files that are now on the VPN. You know, do not. So it was a rough transition. So if your IT department is talking about a remote file server, if you can avoid that middle ground, which is OneDrive, I would highly recommend it. It allowed us to do our jobs, but was hard for a lot of folks. And then we use ShareFile to email large files, ShareFile, and then I also kind of use it with some consultants. Like I have a marketing consultant, we keep a ShareFile, and I drop content in them and there. So, you know, we kind of, and he's out of the organization, so we couldn't share a OneDrive together. Okay. But so I use ShareFile, which is not a Microsoft product. It's just a file sharing. And then, yeah, we use Teams, and Teams is cool if you're trying to collaborate on a especially a Microsoft file, Excel or Word, is creating that file tab in a team. Ooh, Megan has something. I want to hear it.
I just wanted to say that since you shared that in that tutorial, we use that all the time. We have an admin channel, and we used to keep an Excel where we would like keep track of our progress on billing. Each project had a row, each column had a step, and so having that on our team channel has really been great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Our IT department strongly recommend OneDrive only be for personal documents, only, and no business stuff because of that syncing and that overwriting issue. They really have cautioned that if people are going to use it, great, but not for the office stuff. Just keep it for your own, whatever, odds and ends of documents. Yeah.
And the OneDrive storage is finite. It is not infinite. So we were getting to a place where
that's the other part.
It was, you know, their Revit models were saving constant backups all night, and then all of a sudden we're out of OneDrive storage, and we, you know, so I would agree, Carrie. And as far as like document retention, it makes me nervous too.
Yeah. We've run it. Yeah, we're battling that right now, and that's where Teams also for now is not the best solution, because documents get put in Teams and altered in Teams, but then they don't get pulled back down to our file server for archiving and for disaster backups. And you know what? Although you wouldn't think the cloud would go down, but look at Facebook. So you know, so we've had a lot of discussions because we're getting ready to move our mail to the cloud, and then our file server will be next in line. But as we transition, we're having a lot of those discussions about putting these documents in all of these programs that are online. Well, then they live there, and how do you then keep them long term? How do you archive them? How do you get rid of them later? How do you deal with people having copies on their C drives and also on the file server and also in Teams, and which one is right. And so like, it's great to have all these tools, but they're also adding problems for those of us in charge of maintaining those files.
So there's just 5 of us in my company, so we are not networked at all, but I have everybody backing up to the cloud. And for documents that we want to share, we just use Dropbox, and it's working well for us. And you know, we're small enough so that when the job is done, I can download all that stuff and theoretically archive it. But
yeah,
that's a challenge too when you have 5 remote computers, and
yeah.
But
yeah,
it works well, and it's inexpensive.
It is. We use Dropbox for some external folks.
Yeah, and we've been able to use that for clients too, because you can point them specifically to what file or what document, and that works.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
very true.
Kathy, is your office ever gonna get back together, or are you guys, since you're so small, just gonna be permanently, and you need now permanent solutions for all of these issues we're bringing up?
So one of our people actually lives in Spokane, so she's always remote. I haven't seen her in a year and a half, but she's coming to town in a couple weeks. And I've been working at home because I live on West Seattle Island, as does Carol, and our office is now in Renton. And it's a condo where my boss and her husband, who's our 4th employee, they live, but it got flooded about a month ago. So it's completely trashed. And so I don't know, Kurt, I'm enjoying working from home, and you know, thinking they're getting older and we're thinking about retirement. So I might just continue working from home and go in, you know, however often I need to.
Yeah, I was just curious because, you know, sometimes we come up with solutions for these problems and they're not the best solution, but we're thinking, okay, this will tide us over for 3 months, or, you know, this will tide us over to the end of the year. And sometimes the thought process of how to solve some of these issues needs to be bigger, as far as, you know, well, how can we permanently, you know, resolve this issue, that issue, because maybe things are not going to go back to, you know, how they used to be. So.
How we have stuff set up seems to be working. We've kind of muddled along with different solutions. A lot of them are client-based because we use different programs depending on what the client has. But being small, we're able to just kind of use what works for us individually when it is something that's not client-related. So, yeah.
I'll share real quick because we are almost all in person, but we're still using Teams pretty heavily, which was our short-term solution. We all had to go home, but we've maintained it. And we've changed how we use it because they can just pop up and talk now, but I use it heavily for sharing documents that don't need input. So like instead of overloading people's emails with file attachments, I've been posting things like resumes, lunch and learns, things like that, inter-office communications, or just things I want people to have ready access to Teams, which seems to work better than our internal file structure. Rather than saying all the stuff you need is in this folder, I'll put it in Teams. Maybe I'll tag somebody who I really want to look at this thing. And that seems to work better for us. It's more reliable than sending them an email saying, here's a resume, what do you think? Because they'll never open it. But if I put it in Teams, post the document there, they can open it, they can look at it. It doesn't clog up their email. You know, it seems to work pretty well for our method of working. So that's been working pretty well for us internally. I'm curious about SharePoint, you know, see how that goes. We've used it from the customer side. Like we've got clients who use SharePoint and we don't love it. But I don't know if it's different when you're on the driver's side. So I don't know. I'm a little leery, but I don't know. We'll get there, I guess. We'll get there.
We were lucky enough that we were using Teams before the pandemic. So when the pandemic hit, everybody was sort of already in it, and they just got better at it, which is remarkable to me, because sometimes remote, it's like, well, then I don't have to touch that again. which didn't happen. So my little peeps are really good with Teams. I have a couple of people who are, you know, they are just old school, and they're just not going to pick it up. It's like, if I want them to get something, I have to send them an email with it, because that's what they're going to look at. They're not going to look at I don't even necessarily, I think there's 3 of them. They don't necessarily even have it open. It's like, but it's right there. It's right there. Doesn't work. But everybody else, the technical, they're little rock stars. And we have one drafter who sort of has taken charge of that, because that's his little wheelhouse, and he just keeps everybody on point, which is really nice, because I don't necessarily use it the way they do. I use it a little different. So it's really nice for them to have somebody that's like, oh, you can always go to him, and we have staff meetings every 2 weeks, and he always throws out tidbits of how to use things better, and so it works really well for us. We don't have another thing. We use that, which is really nice. And that seems to be long term. It's not like, oh, we had to, you know, like, I know for some of you, it's like the pandemic hit, and then it was like you have to buy equipment and send people home. And we already had all of, yeah, I remember this being like, oh, dear God. We had people who were already working from home a day or 2 a week. So it just went, well, we already got that in place. So they went home, and then everything was pretty easy. We had 2 people who, besides me, who showed up every day because they just like being in the office. It was just what they can do better. And then when we came back, people came back 3 to 4 days a week. So we're mostly back in the office, but we still have people who are working from home. So like those Mondays and Fridays, they get really, you know, everybody's kind of spoiled by that 3 to 5 day weekend kind of thing, but it works well for us. So, you know, I like these. We're always bumping into something that's a microphone thing. If you hear a cat yowling, there's a cat yowling. I apologize for Yowly right here. He's a very chatty boy. that microphone thing, I love the thing that Kathy has. It's like, I wonder if that could work for, you know, 1 or 2 of my little people. And before the pandemic hit, in our back conference room, which is sort of this space with a table, we bought a giant smart TV thing, big giant ass thing. And we haven't really, the pandemic hit and we didn't use it much. So it's just this big giant, you know, screen TV back there that we're all trying to fumble to use. And this week we actually used it for a Zoom meeting, and it worked, and everything worked. And it was just like, woohoo, you know, that kind of thing where you sort of use things as you use them. And this is one of those goofy ass things, like, think we'll get this to work, and the camera worked, and we could hear, and it was remarkable. Like, we didn't have to get an extra something for that.
Nice.
That was really nice. Because, you know, it's usually me a half hour earlier going, what's not going to work? You probably all experience that kind of thing.
Usually.
And it worked. Right.
Yeah. Awesome. It's nice when things just work. Yes.
It just worked.
Just work.
There was much dancing around for me. Yeah.
I was pleased to see Teams hold the market, if you will, because it was our last minute option, because we had to have something, and we were not remote at all. So we picked based on what some other companies were using. And I'm just so grateful that turned out to kind of be the leader, you know, like everybody uses Teams. It's so easy. And I get Teams meetings all the time from clients and vendors and stuff. So I was glad to see that we didn't pick the losing horse for once.
I do want to make one note, because my team just figured this out. I showed them this past week that some of our files in Teams were a little slow because they were using them in Teams. And there is a way that you can actually open up the file in the desktop, like Excel app. So if you didn't know that, it is there, because my team was like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, that's really how I can only deal with like documents, is actually on the desktop app. So there is a way to do that. So if anyone didn't know.
When you have a file shared in the Teams, you can open it other than just a preview, which is normally what comes up.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you can actually like go to the 3, like the ellipses, the 3 dots, and it says open in, and you can do it in the web browser too. But I like to look at it actually in Excel, and it gets a little bogged down if you're all in there, and it may just be like our network too, but it gets a little frustrating if it's slow. So
Okay.
just wanted to point that out.
I'll have to look at that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So is that like Google Docs where multiple people can be in it at the same time and editing, and it just constantly refreshes and saves?
Yep. It's just on autosave. So those are all technically tied to the cloud, because all the stuff on SharePoint, all the stuff in Teams are all like tied to that. So if you're all on it, it gets like real-time updates even if you're on the app, which is pretty nice.
That's pretty cool.
I like Teams too, in a way that we, as a company, we share, like in Teams, when we share files, those are, like Carrie mentioned, not very heavy work related documents. Those are like, hey, please sign up for this, for your photo shoot. Here's a file attached in Teams, and you can go ahead and sign up your name. Or if there's an event going on, just sign up right there. And it's there, and one person can open it. It updates automatically. And for like heavy work related ones that needs everybody's input and comments and those things that need to be resolved, then those we share a link to PIM. So those things, like and then one good thing about it is that they save different versions. So you can check for the history of who published what, so that it can go from version 1.0 to version 1.99, and then you can see all the history of it. And that's very great about file sharing in our company, so that you can see who made what comment on different versions, and it saves all of it. So those work great. And then for Teams, we share like light documents that need just a little bit of input here and there.
I just found the ellipses to open the file in my desktop app. Thank you for that tip. That is not something I had looked for before.
Awesome.
Very handy. All right. Yeah, we use Teams. Kurt, I know you use it to get approvals on invoices and things like that. Like, I know I like it so much better than sending emails back and forth. It's so much.
One of our principals uses a touchpad, you can write on it, and he actually prefers me to send it through Teams. He can quickly download it, sign it with a pen on the screen, resave it, and then just send it back to me. So he's found it to be more efficient, and I definitely get a much quicker response from him when I do it that way. So, whatever works to get your job done better, right?
Yes, exactly. All right. Any other tidbits on file sharing?
Just a question, if anyone's used SharePoint and the driver's seat, or if it's been something for clients and consultants.
Not yet.
Yeah.
I have used Smartsheet. We used it for, this is a couple years ago, we had it for like our main intranet. So everyone would go there. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite. Again, it was slow because it housed everything. So it would take like a long time to upload everything. But as like a, intranet for the company, it was really good because it had like your company internal page and everything, like a good way to house like all company information. But as far as like housing, we housed a ton of our files on there, but it was just slow. So maybe we use it now a little bit, but no one's really going there. So they may have updated that, but it wasn't my favorite.
So I went back and checked. We started using Smartsheet 2.5 years ago. A client wanted us to use it, and it's become a huge tool we use on every single job that we have. It's great for collaborating with the client because
Smartsheet or SharePoint? What are we talking about?
Oh, I thought we were talking about Smartsheet. Oh, sorry.
I asked about SharePoint. but
Okay.
never heard of Smartsheet, so just learning.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, that's okay. That's okay. And Danielle,
Is that what you asked about, Megan? Was Smartsheet?
I asked about SharePoint.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry. Mine.
No worries. No. It's great to learn about a new program.
Yep. I don't know SharePoint. Sorry.
Smartsheets are on the list too. Yeah, SharePoint. My hesitation with SharePoint is I like having our files in-house because those are backed up in a way that I understand. Putting everything in a SharePoint drive, it makes me nervous, honestly. It makes me nervous to know that somebody potentially could delete large swaths of files and I don't have that backup sitting here in my office that I could pull from. You know, it's like it kind of, so I don't know.
I think for us, we really do rely on our file server and VPNing in, and that's like where everything important and record is kept.
Yeah.
We use Teams for like sharing screenshots of design in progress. And SharePoint is kind of like Basecamp, is like a potential tool like OneDrive that we can use for anyone like outside of our office to access files in a limited way, but not necessarily like as a record.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, Emily's point of having a server on the cloud being risky and challenging to adjust when needed is like definitely a good one. We like our server too.
Yeah. It's scary to think of all of that just being out there. We use Newforma for you guys talked about sending clients file or people outside the office files. We use Newforma for that generally as our file sharing, because Newforma, even if they're not on a project, of course for projects it's great, send files for the teams, but Newforma lets you have a personal sharing link, which acts as like an FTP or a file share that you can do through Newforma. And that's what I use instead of some of those other FTP and file sharing options. It works pretty well. I like it because it's a program we already have. So it's not another thing I have to remember to go sign into. It's just, I already have it, you know, and I send a link and somebody can send me a document that way. And, you know, it's kind of nice and contained, but.
And you can also see, I believe, like when the receiver has downloaded the file, and there's kind of a tracking behind the scenes, which is useful.
It is when they say they never got it.
If they even opened it, right? Maybe they got this spam folder, you know.
Yeah. No, it's worked pretty well. I like that part of Newforma. Okay. Are any of you guys using Newforma in your office already? No? Okay. All right. Anything else on file sharing that anybody wants to share? Ask questions? Okay. We kind of ran into the software for collaboration with teams and stuff, but there are other softwares that, you know, Snapchat, not Snapchat. I hope you're not using Snapchat. That was the wrong one. I know that there are instant messenger programs and other kinds of apps that people are using for just for the keeping in touch. If anybody wants to share their experience, that's kind of funny. We should start a Snapchat. We'll get some going around the office here. We'll see how many people still have a Snapchat on their phone.
Nightmare for document retention, Carrie.
No kidding. Well, you got to take a picture.
We for in-office communication, we just use Teams. We did not have instant message before that. And so yeah, Teams has consolidated that for us. So we never had Slack. I think Gretchen hates Slack, and that's why we never had it. But I mean, it's really perfect that then Microsoft came out with a product that could do that for us. So I think we're very hesitant to have anyone have to log into a new thing. We have huge resistance. We have huge, so people won't even sign e-cards because they have to make a new username and password. So there's big resistance. So having it all in the Microsoft suite was our dream.
Yeah. we toyed with Slack just a tiny bit, but I also was not a fan. I didn't like it. And yes, it was one more thing I had to have open in my computer. Teams has kind of filled that
a couple of years ago that brought up as a new thing to use for the board, and we kind of went one more thing. We resisted it.
We did,
like,
yeah.
One more thing.
Yeah.
I know I didn't want to do one more thing. Like I have enough going on, and it was just going to be like one more of all the same. Yeah. So I've never mentioned that anywhere else. Like, no, I don't want one more thing. And when it was a WSP, they had instant messaging, and you kind of get used to that. And I came to, Bayless, and they didn't. So I was like, okay, well. And then Teams came along.
Yeah.
Good. Just click something and a quick answer, and you're done.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it does kind of fill that instant messenger niche, doesn't it?
Less is better.
I agree. We all have too much going on already in our heads. Okay, so is that pretty much it? People are mostly using Teams for an instant messenger type of thing. Yeah, that's what we are too. I mean, I had inquiries from our staff about instant messengers pre-COVID, and we put it off and put it off and put it off, and then look, it's not a problem anymore. Nobody asks anymore because they have Teams. Okay, so the last feeder topic I had is smart sheets, for real, and smart boards. And I have very little experience in these. We looked at smart boards years ago as a workshop tool, and we never quite jumped. And I know nothing about smart sheets. So those of you who are using either one, I would love to hear your input on those. How they work, what you use them for.
Well, so we've been using smart sheets for about 2.5 years, and just started using it because a client wanted us to work with their software. So you can have external people not have to buy the software and the licenses, be able to access it and use it. But we liked it so much that we started using it ourselves. And I think it's about $1,000 a year for, I don't know, 3 or 4 licenses for us. But every project that we have, we use it. We do a lot of equipment procurement and furniture procurement, and going through the whole process of the selection of it, and then the procurement process, and it needs to be delivered by, and who's going to be installing it. All that stuff is in the smart sheet, and you can assign different pieces of different parts of that to different people. So when it's time to order something, they get an automatic ping, say, oh, go ahead and order this piece of equipment, and approvals processes are automated, and it works really well. It looks, the basic sheet of it looks like Excel. So it's, similar, just, different keystrokes and things, but it looks very similar to that, but it's like on steroids. And it's, it's multiple people can be in there at the same time, and you can update stuff, and you can do dashboards. Like we've got one client right now that it's a college, and they are building a new building and then moving some people into the new building and then redoing the old building. And so we've got all these different parts and pieces moving, and they've got their different budgets. So we can see on the dashboard how much of the equipment has been selected, purchased, and installed at any given moment, because it's all updated on Smartsheet. And it also tracks against budget to actually what you have spent. And that's just one example. It's got Gantt charts built in, so you can do scheduling and stuff. And yeah, I'm not our expert. Our expert is in Spokane.
Okay.
I know enough to know what not to do.
So it's an online program that you use online. Yeah. Okay.
And actually, we're building, for another client, we're building a database of building standards and furniture standards, and we're building it on Smartsheet so that when we get done with it, we can just give it to the client. They've already got Smartsheet. So it's lots of different uses.
Okay.
So we're actually using Smartsheet as well, and that's awesome to hear about, like the client side of things, because that's something that we have looked into as well. So we are just starting it. We have not rolled it out to the company yet. We're about to. And we're using it on a more contract process basis. So instead of our project managers emailing project admin like one email, we're having them fill out a form that tells, like, we kind of have prompts, and they can things you can actually have like logic built in. So if you click a box, like 3 other questions will show up. So we're using it that way, and we can like have everything on one row, all requests on one row, and like assign people to it. So it's cool. It does have collaboration with Outlook too, which is pretty nice. And then you can, I mean, you actually can attach files in there as well. So that could also be used for file sharing, but it's good to know that you've been using it for like 2 years, Kathy, and you guys like it. So that gives us hope.
With this building standards thing too, we can actually take an image of whatever it is, like a doorstop or a certain type of caulking. I mean, we're getting down to the nitty gritty, and take a picture of that and put it in there so that the user can say, oh, that's what it is. And I'm also learning a lot about building standards. And the client, every time we use this, is just over the top pleased, because they can see at any given moment what's happening, and it just really streamlines the process for them.
So are you able to restrict editing then? So the client has a view only and you have an editing side, or?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. There's different levels of roles.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So,
And it does have an app as well. So I think we might try to get like our people who are out in the field to track like mileage on the app. I think that's kind of like a goal long term. So
okay. What, I know nothing about this. I know nothing about this program. It sounds like it could be used for tracking just about anything though, right? You could track processes, budgets, contracts, mileage. I mean, that sounds, okay. Huh. Interesting. Sounds like a beefed up Google Drive. Interesting.
it's nice because it looks, like Kathy said, it looks exactly like Excel. So that was a big draw for us, that the people that are we use Excel right now to track a bunch of contract process stuff. So we're hoping that it'll be a good transition into, like, it looks exactly like Excel, and it works pretty much the same, just a lot of different features. So that was a big draw for us too, that it has kind of like that same layout.
Kathy, when you say it has different roles, is this a thing where you could request information from certain people and they could upload attachments or documents to the sheet and not see other people's, or how fine-tuned can you be on that? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. I think when you see, I'm not the expert, so, but I think when you see the sheet, you see the sheet, but you can see the whole thing, but you might not be able to like create a new item or something like that. Or it might just be, when you get dinged with something, hey, I need a response from you. You can click on that particular thing, but you can't manipulate anything else. It's pretty sophisticated. So I would imagine that there's lots of levels of user interface. I was just going to say, I'd be happy to share a screen with you for one of our clients.
Sure. Yeah, I'm curious about that, because with the new state mandate for vaccination for on-site at schools, I've been trying to come up with a way to track our subs, you know, and who did I get information from and when did we send the requests? And, you know, I set it up in Excel because that's what we do. But it would be, if there was a way to have a sheet shared out to our subs that they could then attach their own information or whatever, that seems like it'd be a much easier way to gather this data and keep it.
You could probably do that. Yeah, and actually for Pierce College, we all had to send in our vaccination stuff so that we could go on site. Let's see, here's dashboard. Can you all see this?
Yeah, it's a file. You got a file structure in there.
Yeah. Let's see.
So you've got different documents. So it's not just a sheet; it's a whole file. Okay.
Yeah. So like this. This is the equipment.
Okay.
And then there's, you know, who's approving it and that kind of stuff. But this isn't the actual equipment. So let me. I don't get in here that often. I wanted to show you the dashboard though, which is really cool. Oh, here it is. So this is, you know, the client can get in there and see this too. It's thinking really slow. But they can go to these quick links about what's happening. And here's our critical milestones for the project. And then down here is different budget stuff. It's public, so I'm not worried about sharing this with you guys. But there's the different departments because, you know, everybody has, you know, buckets of money that they can spend. So it's really handy, and the client just loves it. And then you can see over here how much has been purchased and what's waiting to be purchased. And again, this is a two-phase project, so some of it's not going to be purchased until 2022. But the client's just super happy, and we made it work with their purchasing system so that they're just very happy. So it's nice.
That sounds like a really useful.
And I think, let's see, here's the other one we're doing, the building standards.
I could see that working really well for like design milestones, you know, project milestones, meetings. You mentioned the Gantt charts they can do. It seems like that would be a really handy way to share that information.
Here's our standards catalog. So this is the one we were working on. We work on this collaboratively. So there's all these, you know, different the divisions and subdivisions, and then it's got, okay, I can't see what's there. All these different things, and it's like, well, you know, what's a wall shelf? Well, there's the wall shelf that you want. It's specific to that particular item, and it's got all sorts of information. You can customize it, and so we're using it in lots of different ways. So
very cool.
Yeah,
that looks very handy. I'm gonna have to look into that one. Thank you.
Yeah, let's see. How do I stop this?
You should have a screen share button at the bottom. That
there we go.
There you go. Okay. Thank you. That looks definitely worth looking into for some processes. That looks like it could be a really convenient program. And I was not familiar with that one at all.
And I think once a year they have Smartsheet engaged. So they're really big on keeping people educated on, you know, new stuff or, you know, just new information for that person.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Danielle, you'll have to let us know how it goes as you roll yours out.
Definitely. Yeah. We're excited about it. So, I mean, ours is not nearly as nice as Kathy's yet, but hopefully we'll get there.
Well, I was just going to offer our resident expert, Ashley, if I'm sure she would be happy to talk with you.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So shoot me an email and I'll be happy to put you guys in touch because she really enjoys it, and she's definitely our expert.
Awesome. Will do.
Yeah. So I think I'm on the SDA website if you need to find my email.
I think so.
Perfect.
All right. Right behind smart sheets was smart boards. Is anybody using a smart board in their office? It's like a electronic whiteboard now.
When I was in 8th grade, my school was newly remodeled and every classroom had a smart board. So every teacher was troubleshooting how to use it. I think that they've probably had like several software updates since then. So I'm not sure how relevant this is, but yeah, I haven't used it.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's been kind of my impression, is that they were really, really cool when they came out. And since then, no. The only envy I've had with it, as far as a smart board, I think it was like a Microsoft TV, where it was more like a giant tablet, and you could use Teams on the TV. But that, I asked how much money. It was in a project that we did, and it was, I mean, so expensive. But yeah, I haven't seen a smart board. I think it was maybe a bit of a fad, and especially in academic design, they got after it when they didn't need to.
Yeah,
But
I agree. Yeah, and we looked at them at about the same time, and they were too glitchy and too unpredictable to be worth pursuing at the time. They came across our radar recently. I think they got overridden by tablets and stuff. I think when tablets came out, it just kind of made smartboards not so great. They've recently resurfaced because they are basically giant tablets now. Yes, with apps built in, and it seems like it could have some real potential in a conference room where you do, write big stuff on the wall. But they are terribly expensive, like 5,000, 7,000. They're very expensive things to put on. So
yeah, I think it might have been like a Microsoft TV or something. Yeah. And it was like 10, he's like, oh, you can have this for 10 grand. Yeah. And my boss next to me was like,
I know. Yeah. Okay. I was curious if anybody had actually jumped, because they've kind of circled back around now as a new thing, but no expense.
No, little link to what I think is the Microsoft one in the chat.
Okay.
But there's some price on it.
Oh yeah, it's a Surface Hub. So it's a giant Microsoft Surface.
Oh, 85-inch. Holy cow. Yeah, you could get a giant one. Okay.
And if they don't have the price on there, you know that it's too big.
Exactly. I imagine that's the kind of thing that's going to go through more evolutions. Like they're super expensive right now, but if we give them a few more years, they'll probably come back down, because that stuff is just bound to even out a bit. But okay.
Yeah. I just went to Smartboard's website and they range from like 3,000 to 7,000.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, I may have found the Surface. The Surface Hub is $21,000.
Okay.
That is nuts. Even the stand to put a Surface Hub on a stand is $2,200. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think that one's going to come off the list as potential.
But it is time for our annual budget, so you never know.
That's right. You never know. All right. We are just about at the top of the hour. Has anybody else got any tips or tools they want to shout out real quick that they're loving, or things they hate, things they tried and just failed miserably? No?
We've been doing our all staff meeting on Zoom for 2 years now. And but we're mostly using Teams. And so someone convinced our new office manager to switch to Teams for that large office meeting. And I still think that for large groups, Zoom is the proper platform.
Yeah.
And it gives the meeting organizer more control, because when you're in a Teams meeting, I'm on there muting people, and it's not my meeting, so people can mute people. It's kind of bedlam as far as like meeting controls. So don't be swayed. I think our staff, our technical staff, they just don't want to have to use another platform. We could do this all in Teams. That's not necessarily the case for some things. So that's what's bugging me lately, is that we got bamboozled into using Teams for our large meeting, and it is not a great platform. and you know how it changes, the size changes. You can't see everybody. Anyway, that's my qualm.
We've reached
today.
the same decision. We've kind of capped Teams meetings at 4 or 5, and if it's going to go beyond 4 or 5 people, we jump to Zoom. Yeah, it's just, yeah, we agree. We agree.
Thank you, Carrie. I needed a little validation on that one. Thank you, Megan.
I got your back.
Everyone, thank you. I needed that pump up today.
All right, I'm going to close this out here. Thank you guys so much for sharing. I hope you got a couple of helpful tips to look into. I hope you learned something new, and good luck with what you do decide to move forward with. And please let us know how it goes, because we want to know. All right.